From Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Translated by John Gardner. He put his spurs to Gringolet, plunged down the path, shoved through the heavy thicket grown up by the woods, and rode down the steep slope to the floor of the valley. He looked around him then, a strange, wild place, and not a sign of a chapel on any side, but only steep, high banks surrounding him, and great rough knots of rock and rugged crags that scraped the passing clouds, as it seemed to him. He heaved at the heavy reins to hold back his horse, and squinted in every direction in search of the chapel, and still he saw nothing except, and this was strange, a small green hill all alone, a sort of barrow, a low, smooth bulge on the bank of the brimming creek that flowed from the foot of a waterfall, and the water in the pool was bubbling as if it were boiling. Sir Gawain urged Gringolet on till he came to the mound, and lightly dismounted, and made the reins secure on the great, thick limb of a gnarled and ancient tree. Then he went up to the barrow and walked all around it, wondering in his wits what on earth it might be. It had at each end and on either side an entrance, and patches of grass were growing all over the thing, and all the inside was hollow, an old, old cave, or the cleft of some ancient crag. He couldn't tell which it was. "Woo, Lord," thought the knight, "is this the fellow's place? Here the devil might recite his midnight mass." "Dear God," thought Gawain, "the place is deserted enough, and it's ugly enough, all overgrown with weeds. Well might it amuse that marvel of green to do his devotions here in his devilish way. In my 5 senses, I fear it's the fiend himself who's brought me to meet him here to murder me. May fire and fury befall this fiendish chapel, as cursed a kirk as I ever yet came across." With his helmet on his head and his lance in hand, he leaped up onto the roof of the rock-walled room, and high on that hill he heard, from an echoing rock beyond the pool on the hillside, a horrible noise. Crack! It clattered in the cliffs as if to cleave them, a sound like a grindstone grinding on a scythe. Crack! It whirred and rattled like water on a mill wheel. Crack! It rushed and rang till your blood ran cold. And then, "Oh God," thought Gawain, "it grinds, I think, for me. A blade prepared for the blow I must take as my right. God's will be done. But here, he may well get his knight, but still no use in fear. I won't fall dead of fright." And then Sir Gawain roared in a ringing voice, "Where is the hero who swore he'd be here to meet me? Sir Gawain the Good is come to the Green Chapel. If any man would meet me, make it now, for it's now or never. I've no wish to dawdle here long." "Stay there," called someone high above his head. "I'll pay you promptly all that I promised before." But still he went on with that whetting noise a while, turning again to his grinding before he'd come down. At last, from a hole by a rock, he came out into sight, came plunging out of his den with a terrible weapon, a huge new Danish axe to deliver his blow with a vicious swine of a bit bent back to the handle, filed to a razor's edge and 4 foot long, not 1 inch less by the length of that gleaming lace. The great Green Knight was garbed as before, face, legs, hair, beard, all as before, but for this, that now he walked the world on his own 2 legs, the axe handle striking the stone like a walking stave. When the knight came down to the water he would not wade, but vaulted across on his axe, then with awful strides came fiercely over the field, filled all around with snow. Sir Gawain met him there and bowed, but none too low. Said the other, "I see, sweet sir, you go where you say you'll go." "Gawain," the Green Knight said, "may God be your guard. You're very welcome indeed, sir, here at my place. You've timed your travel, my friend, as a true man should. You recall the terms of the contract drawn up between us. At this time a year ago, you took your chances, and I'm pledged now, this new year, to make you my payment. And here we are in this valley, all alone, and no man here to part us, proceed as we may. Heave off your helmet, then, and have here your pay, and debate no more with me than I did then, when you severed my head from my neck with a single swipe. Never fear, said Gawain. By God who gave me life, I'll raise no complaint at the grimness of it, but take your single stroke, and I'll stand still, and allow you to work as you like, and not oppose you here. He bowed toward the ground, and let his skin show clear. However his heart might pound, he would not show his fear. Quickly then, the man in the green made ready, grabbed up his keen-ground axe to strike Sir Gawain. With all the might in his body he bore it aloft, and sharply brought it down as if to slay him. Had he made it fall with the force he first intended, he would have stretched out the strongest man on earth. But Sir Gawain cast a side glance at the axe as it glided down to give him his kingdom come, and his shoulders jerked away from the iron a little, and the Green Knight caught the handle, holding it back, and mocked the prince with many a proud reproof. "You can't be Gawain," he said, "whose thought's so good, a man who's never been daunted on hill or dale. For look how you flinch for fear before anything's felt. I never heard tell that Sir Gawain was ever a coward. I never moved a muscle when you came down. In Arthur's hall I never so much as winced. My head fell off at my feet, yet I never flickered. But you tremble at heart before you're touched. I'm bound to be called a better man than you, then, my lord." Said Gawain, "I shied once, no more. You have my word. But if my head falls to the stones, it cannot be restored. But be brisk, man, by your faith, and come to the point. Deal out my doom if you can, and do it at once, for I'll stand for one good stroke, and I'll start no more until your axe has hit, and that I swear." "Here goes, then," said the other, and heaves it aloft and stands there waiting, scowling like a madman. He swings down sharp, then suddenly stops again, holds back the axe with his hand before it can hurt, and Gawain stands there stirring not even a nerve. He stood there still as a stone, or the stalk of a tree that's wedged in rocky ground by 100 roots. Oh, merrily then he spoke, the man in green. "Good! You've got your heart back. Now I can hit you. May all that glory the good King Arthur gave you prove efficacious now, if it ever can, and save